Welcome to the first episode of Dadork Miniviews, where I review things that I don't really have much to talk about. Most of them are quite boring, so don't expect a whole lot of riveting things to come out here. And one of those boring games is Boremation Z, developed by Hecht and published by Jellico for the Nintendo Famicom in 1985, a year after the arcade release, which was actually released by Williams in the US as Aeroboto. But of course, Boremation Z for the Famicom never got released outside Japan, and Williams didn't really get into publishing until the late Super Nintendo, early PlayStation days when they acquired Trade West in 1995. But hey, at least Williams was kind enough to let Rare release video game versions of Pinbot and High Speed. And they were pretty good versions too. If you want to know what Boremation Z is like in the arcade, it's the exact same game, except it's slightly faster and has rapid fire. Plus it looks much nicer, and I think it actually plays a little bit better too. There's also a green robot thing that appears in the desert section that was cut from the Famicom version, but no one really cares about that one. There are 2 worlds and 5 sections. 3 of them is where you walk on the ground and shoot stuff, and the other where you're required to go in jet mode and shoot stuff, and also a boss. You can do a pathetic charge blast by pressing the fire button. You can also go into jet mode at any time during the ground sections by holding the jump button. I don't really use it a whole lot because the fuel just depletes very rapidly. Plus, fuel can only be found on the ground, and therefore, if you don't have enough fuel during the sections where you're required to get into the jet, you're pretty much shit out of luck. Unless it's a boss, which at least it gives you the kindness of giving you infinite fuel. After the first boss, you get a cutscene where you fly to outer space in the most epileptic way possible, to this random purple planet. Is this supposed to be Mars or something? I don't know. But regardless, you do the same shit. Then you go into a flying section in which you defeat the fucking Master Core? They really can't be serious.
Destroy the core!
Once you defeat it, this is all you get.
Congratulations! Bonus your energy!
Then it loops. That's basically the entire game. There isn't really a whole lot to say, but the parallax scrolling is pretty neat. Plus the graphics are pretty good for 1985. Plus jumping in this game is pretty floaty, and in the walking sections, it is very, very, very slow. The jet's pretty fast, but however that drains your fuel. But honestly, if you use it in short bursts, it's not that bad. There's also these tanks on the ground, which are there for like no reason, other than to be an obstacle. It's best to just jump over it, because you can shoot downwards, but however, it's incredibly useless, as there's not really a point of using it at all, aside from the mines, which most of them you could just avoid by jumping, or some of them just, like, go up in the air, and if you're lucky enough, you can go through it. There's not really much of a reason why you could shoot downwards, if there's not really a whole lot to shoot down. Overall, Boremation Z is just another early Famicom game. There isn't really a whole lot to say, but there's definitely a lot worse out there. If anything, at least this one was done by the original developers, which is good because who knows how bad the game would be if it was done by Micronics. And now, for a preview of the Magmax review. Even though the story in this game isn't really necessary, the fact that it even has one at all is pretty crazy. But it's really, really simple, and isn't really worth talking about all that much. The story goes is that the Earth has been colonized by a bunch of aliens using a series of mechanical monsters being operated by a three-headed computer named Babylon. However, the humans created a transformable robot called Magmax with the code name Robo-Centurion and must find the parts to destroy Babylon and save the world from more destruction. Yeah, pretty simple stuff. When you answer the coin and begin the game, you get this nice little cutscene where Magmax gets taken to the surface and begin his mission. Another thing you might notice is how nice this game looks, especially what they did to the game. As you can see, the game has a bit of a pseudo 3D scaling to it, which makes it pop out a lot more than most of the arcade games at the time. This was a year before Space Harrier, so this would have really rocked people's minds back in the day. You also notice the little hatchets, which will teleport you to the underground of the game. It may not look as nice as the overground, it still looks pretty nice, and the fact that it has a feature at all is pretty cool. You can also shoot these stalactites from the ceiling to make it fall down onto enemies, and you can get bonus points for it. And this also happens to you, and you lose a point.